But let's start off with the subject I want to start this show off with, and that is Bruce Dickinson, one of, if not my favorite heavy metal vocalist of all time. Bruce has announced a tour to start in August here in the United States, and he has announced that he has 18 songs demoed for an upcoming album in 2026, or at least he's going to start recording it in 2026. Will it come out that year? I don't know, but I've received some emails asking me what I think that album may sound like. So let me talk about Bruce touring the States. I think that is a very significant thing. I think it's really cool that he's out there doing the solo thing again. Mandrake Project was definitely a welcome album, and I'll give you my ranking of where I put that in Bruce's discography, because that album ended up getting some mixed reviews. Nevertheless, I am excited to see the fact that this guy is on the road performing songs from his solo albums, because I think Bruce, if I were to pick a guy from a major band, if I had to pick my favorite group of solo albums from anybody that has been, that has been in any major heavy metal band, it would be Bruce. I love his solo stuff. None of the albums he's ever made has been the same either. It's all been very interesting stuff. So that tour starts in August, and it takes me back to when I saw Bruce on the Accident of Birth tour. I think it was September 22nd, 1997. I could be wrong in the date, but I believe I found the ticket stub to that, actually. They played in a venue called the Odeon. And it was Accident of Birth, maybe a whopping 200 people there, if that. I mean, when you think about that now, it's kind of disappointing. But they did come to the venue. I did get to meet Bruce. I met Roy Z. And I was a kid seeing my favorite singer ever at that point in time. And it was a great show. I mean, I remember they played a lot of Iron Maiden songs. They played Flight of Icarus. They played Power Slave. They played Prisoner, I believe, if I remember correctly. But it was a phenomenal show. And even though there were like 200 people there, it felt larger than life for me. And I was actually going crazy in the crowd. I think it was 19 at the time when I went to that show. And I still have the t-shirts somewhere. But nevertheless, it was a phenomenal show, and I loved and still love Accident of Birth. It's probably one of my top 2 albums by Bruce. Now, I'm really interested. Now, I've had people email me asking me, what do I think his next solo album will sound like? And as I mentioned before, every single one of his solo albums sounds a lot different from the other. Granted, aside from the Mandrake Project, the 3 albums that preceded it, a lot of people think sound similar. I don't think that. I think The Chemical Wedding is a much different album than Accident of Birth, personally. It's a different vibe. It's a different record. Obviously, the first 3 albums, I mean, Tattooed Millionaire is kind of a more straight ahead classic hard rock album. If I were to kind of categorize it, Balls of Picasso is a very strange record, and Skunkworks is also kind of experimental as well. And Tyranny of Souls was kind of for me, the way I looked at it, sort of a combination of what you heard in Accident of Birth and Chemical Wedding. Mandrake Project, of course, has its own sound. It kind of sounds like a mix of a mix of Accident of Birth, maybe Chemical Wedding, along those lines. But generally speaking, I think that album is different as well. And where do I rank the Mandrake Project? Because it did get mixed reviews. There was a lot of hype behind the record, but when I looked at reviews for it, the reviews were mixed. Now, I like the record a lot, to the point where I ended up getting the big, huge special edition CD with the big comic book in it, and the album on vinyl as well. But if I were to rank it, here's me ranking the Bruce Dickinson albums. Chemical Wedding would be number 1. Accident of Birth would be number 2. I would probably have Tyranny of Souls 3. Mandrake Project 4. So I have Mandrake Project right in the middle. This will throw some of you off because this is probably unexpected, but I'd have Skunkworks 5th, and I'll explain to you why I have it there. You have Tattooed Millionaire 6th. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tattooed Millionaire 6th. And last but not least, I'd have Balls to Picasso, which I think is a very bizarre record. But Skunkworks I have 5th. When that came out, I was in high school. And I don't know what it was, but there was something about that album that I think really drew me into it. And, you know, when going back and listening to Bruce Dickinson's solo career, there's something about the Skunkworks album I absolutely love. It's a much different record than he ever put out, obviously. But overall, I could still go back and listen to that album quite a bit. And those first 3 Bruce Dickinson albums were, in my opinion, were drastically different from each other. And pretty much mostly different from what he did in Iron Maiden, for the most part. So as far as what his next album might sound like, folks, I have no idea. I say that because I think each of the 7 albums this man has put out, they are all so different from each other. It's really kind of hard to predict. Could it be better because he got back into the swing of things and came out with a solo album and has some brand new songs coming out? Maybe. Maybe it won't be as good. So, you know, most bands, you can kind of look at their track record and see that they're building up to something great. And that you think, okay, you know this next record's really probably going to be very good. But with Bruce, it's hard to tell. He might put out what I feel is his worst album, or he could put out what I feel is his best. Because these albums, in my opinion, are pretty diverse, especially compared to what he did in Iron Maiden. So it's really hard for me to really predict. It'll be interesting. His albums have always been very interesting to me upon the first listen, because there's some things you expect, and then there's some things on these records that you don't expect. So I'm looking forward to it. Kind of curious where your thoughts are, folks. Do you think his next album will be better than the Mandrake Project? Did you like or dislike the Mandrake Project? Leave a comment. I'm interested in hearing your opinion on it. Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.